Get started here. Welcome to our commercial AV 101 training with Vanco. I'm Mark Arajani with 21st Century, and we are excited to have, well, we got the whole crew of Vanco here, it seems like. We got Frank Santos who's going to be doing the presenting. Tom Oliver's here. I saw Aaron on here, and I think I saw Dale on here. So welcome to Vanco, Dale. So excited to have you guys here. Guys from Vanco, Pulse Audio, Beale Street, to train us all on the basics of commercial AV, the many 70-volt speakers and amplifiers that Vanco offers. So we're going to keep this under an hour. Presentation will be recorded. So if you want to go back and review the content in this webinar, if you have an installer employee that might find this useful, please check this out in our virtual conference training, where it can be available, as well as other videos, trainings, and events. And if you guys have any questions, please type them in the chat, and we will get those answered for you. So Frank, thanks again for being here. And if everybody can mute their devices as well, that'd be appreciated. So take it away, Frank.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, everyone, for your time this morning to learn about 70-volt commercial audio and some of our products and solutions for you guys. As Mark mentioned, please, if you guys have any questions, type those in the chat, and my colleagues will help me out to answer those questions while I'm presenting. So we'll get going. Hopefully you guys can see my screen okay. Again, my name is Frank Santos. I'm the Director of Training for Vanco. I've been with Vanco for 12 years now, so it's getting up there, and certainly learned a lot in this industry over my past 12 years, and I can be used as a resource. So if you guys ever need some help, system design, let me know how I can help out. I can be easily reached at Vanco at the headquarters, on our website, vanco1.com, or at franks@vanco1.com as well. And I apologize. My voice I'm having trouble with my voice. If you guys hear me clear my voice, that's just me trying to get through it. So I apologize. So about Vanco, if you guys are not aware about Vanco, born in 1957 in Illinois. We've got a huge warehouse, over 85,000 square feet facility, and we stock almost everything in-house. Okay, so we're centrally located right outside of Chicago. Our focus has been on AV distribution and audio over the last 20 plus years, starting off with HDMI, over the last 10 years audio with our Beale Street Audio and our Pulse Audio lines, providing speakers, amplifiers, and other audio solutions. And Vanco is actually short for Van Company. We used to sell products right out of a van, going from dealer to dealer, distributor to distributor. And again, we're headquartered and we ship right out of Batavia, Illinois, an hour west of Chicago. So one of the things that we like to brag about is our QC testing center, is what you're seeing at the top here. Our motto with that area is tested thoroughly, tested twice. What we do with our complex high dollar equipment, our amplifiers, our matrix units, our HDMI, our IP, is we test them twice. Okay. The reason why we do that, we understand that our factories overseas are testing our equipment with different displays, different sources. We want to make sure it works over here with our equipment. Okay, so we want to rule out any compatibility issues. The other deal there, shipping. We understand that this stuff is coming halfway around the world. We understand that a shipper can drop one of our boxes, so we want to eliminate any DOAs that ultimately gets to you guys, our dealers out in the field. So again, we want to eliminate that. In terms of warranties, we are very aggressive with our warranties. Evolution, our line of premium HDMI distribution products, features a 10-year warranty, including our Evo IP product, our HDMI over IP product. A lifetime warranty on any cable that we sell, whether it's HDMI, whether it's audio, whether it's networking cables. And on the audio side of things, a limited lifetime warranty on the speakers, excuse me, 2-year warranty on the amplifiers. And again, all this stuff is tested twice. Brand partners include JVC, Yamaha, Vivotech, TrendNet, Luxel, Netgear. And tech support, if that's needed, let us know. We're more than happy to help out. Give us a call, shoot us an email, or even chat with us right on our website. So learning objectives today, we're going to cover 70 volt audio. What is 70 volt audio? And then 70 volt versus 8 ohms. So typically what's the difference between commercial and residential audio? We're going to cover the specific use cases and misconceptions of 70 volt audio. Then we're going to talk about probably the most common question that we get is how many speakers do I use and how far away are these speakers being placed? Okay. Again, most common question that we get, and we do have a couple slides covering that. Then we'll talk about 70 volt wiring, the tap settings on each speaker, and then the picking of the amplifier and the power of the amplifier itself. And then we'll wrap up with solutions that we offer from our Beale Street and Pulse Audio line for 70 volt audio products. All right, so let's get into it. So what is 70 volt audio? 70 volt audio is simply constant voltage or high impedance audio distribution system. Typically it's mono. We're not worried about stereo. We're not trying to recreate a soundstage. We're just worried about coverage. So it's going to be single channel. It's going to be mono. Okay. And what 70 volt allows us to do, it allows a single amplifier to drive multiple speakers. Again, we're worried about quantity. We're worried about coverage. Okay, so that way we can wire up multiple speakers together to provide mono audio. So speakers are wired in parallel. As you can see on the right-hand side, comparing a commercial 70 volt system to a standard home system, where a standard home system is going to have typically a speaker for a dedicated channel on an amplifier. 70 volt is very different. We are connecting multiple speakers to one or two or three channels, but typically it's the same speakers that are being daisy chained together. So it can be either daisy chained or home run. And then on the individual speakers itself, you've got tap settings for different power levels based on the amplifier output and the application itself. So let's talk about the advantages of 70 volt over 8 ohms. So again, typically 70 volt is for commercial applications. Now you can have 70 volt in residential. Think outdoor, think your backyard, your patio, and we can daisy chain a bunch of speakers together. So typically that's a 70 volt application. 8 ohm, typically for residential applications, think home theater system. You've got a 7.2 system for movies. For playing sports, or I'm sorry, for watching sports. Okay, so you can obviously listen to 8 ohm that way in residential applications. If you're into vinyl, think a 2.1 system, left and right for stereo plus a subwoofer. Okay, so 70 volt allows for more speakers at longer distances. So let me give you an example. So for an 8 ohm system, we're running 16 gauge wire. The 1 decibel loss comes in at 110 feet. Okay. In a 70 volt system using the same gauge wire, 1 decibel loss comes in at almost 2,700 feet. So we can go way longer using a 70 volt system. Now, 70 volt is a solution for different applications, playing background music, PA systems, any large areas such as restaurants, department stores, schools, etc., outdoor audio and mass notification. So when and why should we install 70 volt? Again, we covered it in the last slide here, but for large coverage areas, right? For anything outdoor, for music, for announcements that, again, we've got an outdoor space to fill in some sound. Bars and restaurants for music, TV sound announcements, education, school systems, right? Announcements for safety, music, and then your retail environments, again, for music and announcements. Now, 70 volt systems are very easy to install. Again, we kind of covered it in the last couple slides here, but wiring up the speakers in parallel or daisy chaining speakers together, so we're using less wiring. Okay, instead of having a dedicated speaker for each channel, we're just wiring from one speaker to the next. And it is more cost effective. With 70 volt systems, we're using less amplifiers, we're using less rack space, we're using less speaker wire, and because we're using less of all three, it's much faster and easier labor. We're getting in, we're getting out, and most importantly, we're getting paid, right? So again, 70 volt system has some advantages in terms of labor. Let's talk about some misconceptions of audio. The feedback that we always get is 70-volt audio doesn't sound good. In my experience, and I'm sure Tom will tell you the same, that's probably because the 70-volt system itself wasn't designed properly. Tap settings weren't set properly. Okay, we get calls all the time of, hey, we cannot hear the volume, or the volume's way too low on these speakers. And we'll ask them, hey, did you adjust the tap settings? And more often than not, the answer is no. Okay, so a properly designed 70-volt system can sound very great. It can have a high level of volume. So, in order for that, we've got to understand the purpose, the environment, and the user expectations. Are we dealing with background music, or are we dealing with a club or a bar that obviously has many people in it, and we've got to fill that room with music? Well, we've got to have it at a higher volume, right? Most 70-volt speakers are tapped at 20 watts or less. That can't be loud enough. Okay, so let me give you an example. With everyone has phones, right? Have you ever had to turn down the volume on your cell phone while watching a video or playing music? Your phone can actually play a high level of volume, right? So you can actually turn it down. Now, keep in mind, your cell phone amplifier is less than 1 watt. Okay, that's all that's driving that cell phone speaker. Okay, so you will be installing more than one pair of speakers to cover a large area. And then what is the primary use of 70-volt? Most 70-volt, or many 70-volt systems, are tapped at 5 watts or less. So keep that in mind. Next slide here, some questions to ask your clients. I'm not going to cover each and every one of these. As Mark mentioned, this will be recorded, so you guys can reference these questions, but great questions to design a 70-volt system, right? Also, more than happy to send out this presentation. Again, just reach out to Mark, reach out to myself, so that way we can give you a copy of this list. Let's talk
Frank,
about
Frank, one thing on that slide. Sorry for jumping in there. This is Tom.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, on that question slide, if you're going into your first 70-volt system, or you're not real sure that you know how to design a system, if you ask your client these questions and then get this information to us at Vanco, we'd be more than happy to go through and design the system for you and come up with your bill of materials. So just keep that in mind. If it's something that you're not feeling totally comfortable with out there in the field, we can help you do this.
Sounds good. Thank you, Tom.
And Frank, this can be found on your website, correct?
This
or
is
do you
not.
want, or can
but,
do you want us to send these over to our dealers every time they have a system? Because this is valuable information for us to help design systems for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I can send you a copy of this on a PDF format, so that way you guys can post it on your website. And that's a good point. I'll work with our marketing team, so that way we can have that posted as well.
Yeah, and then I'd like to get it on your page on our website as well. So I think this is valuable information. So yeah, I'll take a note of that. Thank you.
Yep, agree. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about one of the most common questions that we get: 70-volt speaker placement, right? Where and how do we place these speakers? All right, well, obviously we're working with in-ceiling 70-volt speakers. It provides the most cost-effective coverage of an area. Okay, we can cover larger areas compared to wall-mounted speakers, right? Because they're overhead instead of on the wall, and because they're on the ceiling overhead, we can avoid obstructions like partitions, furniture, etc. Excuse me. So again, most common question that we get is, where do I place these speakers and how many speakers for these ceiling speakers? All right, spacing. So spacing, we've got 3 different levels here depending on what you're looking to do. Okay, so if we're looking for low volume background music or paging applications, it's simply the ceiling height times 2. So I'll give you an example. Let's say our ceiling height's 10 feet. Well, times 2, that's 20. So we want to have these speakers 20 feet apart. Okay. Next bullet point down, if we're looking for background music with average coverage, then it's ceiling height times 1.5. So each speaker in this case would be 15 feet away. And then last but not least, if we're looking for background, foreground music in high noise situations, lower ceilings under 9 feet, and when the sound is an important part of the business environment, well, then we want more speakers, right? So the ceiling height times 1, again, 10-foot ceilings, these speakers will be 10 feet apart. Okay. Another great piece of information is this slide right here, where we can kind of calculate how many speakers are needed for any application. So let me give you an example here. We've got a 2,000 square foot room. We've got 10-foot ceilings. And again, what we're looking for is background music, right? Which again, from the previous slide is ceiling height times 2. Well, again, we know our spacing, which is 20 feet apart, but how many speakers do we need in this application? So the math here, all it is total square footage of the room, okay, divided by the ceiling height times 2 squared, which equals the total number of speakers. So we know the total square footage of the room, so we'll do 2,000 up top. We know the ceiling height, which is 10 foot, and times 2 squared equals 400. So all we're doing here is we're taking 2,000 divided by 400, which equals 5 speakers. So all we need is 5 speakers for this application, again, if we're just looking for background music. Now, let me give you the other example of where we need more coverage. We need more speakers for foreground music, right? And that, again, from the previous slide, that's ceiling height times 1. Well, again, the square footage of the room is 2,000. 10-foot ceilings times 1 squared, which is 100. So 2,000 divided by 100, 20 speakers in this case. Okay, so again, this equation really helps out. Again, we can send this to Mark and the 21st Century team to have it posted, and we'll also get this on our website as well so you guys can reference it.
And you may be going into this in a minute here, Frank, but how do you know where you should have each tap setting for each speaker? Is that depending on how many speakers you have in the application, or is there another factor to keep in mind when deciding that?
Yes, and yes. It really depends upon how many speakers, but also very important, your amplifier as well. So depending upon, again, what you're looking for the application in terms of audio, whether it's lower volume, whether it's higher volume, I do have a table on a future slide here that will show you where we can find out what the tap settings need to be set at.
Yeah, kind of a real life example of that. So if you're in a grocery store and you just hear background music, those speakers are likely tapped at 5 watts, maybe even less, as opposed to when you go into a bar or restaurant where music or the sound of the ball game is at the forefront, then those are likely tapped at 15, 20 watts or higher.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. All right. So I don't see any questions in the chat log, so we'll keep it moving. All right. So next question is, how do we wire up these speakers? Okay. So there are multiple wire runs. There's a single wire run. We highly recommend multiple wire runs on the left-hand side as opposed to the right-hand side. Why is this? Because if you have a power loss and a long run of wire, you've got multiple wire runs which we can work with rather than one single run. Okay, going back to multiple wire runs, we can wire each row of speakers in an area together. This reduces the amount of power loss and is much easier to troubleshoot, as I mentioned. With a single wire run, connecting all speakers in one long run of wire, the amount of power loss in a long run of wire may not allow the required amount of 70-volt speaker signal. Okay, so again, left-hand side, optimal, right-hand side can be done, but not recommended. Let's talk about 70-volt volume controls. Tom, can you talk about this slide really quick?
Sure can. So if it's a single volume control for all the speakers, it's real simple. You go out of the amplifier into the volume control and then out to your speaker. If you're trying to run multiple zones where you've got different volume controls off the same amplifier feed, you do wire the volume controls up first. So you go out of the amplifier and then you run parallel out of the volume controls, as you see here on the right-hand side, and then to the speaker. So a little bit different wiring architecture. If you need some help designing this within your system, we'd be happy to to do a line drawing and show you exactly how to run the wire. But it is, you don't want to go into one volume control out to speakers and then into another volume control and out to more speakers. That is the incorrect way to do that. So you need to wire the volume controls first and then out to the speakers.
Perfect. Thank you, Tom.
Yep.
And then Mark, as you, in terms of your question, in terms of the speaker tap settings, it really depends what we're looking for, right? If you're looking at the table on the right-hand side for low noise, typically your tap settings 1.3 watts, medium noise 2.5 to 5, high noise at 10 watts, and then very high noise at 20 watts. Okay. So really it's determining the appropriate tap settings for each speaker. Typically 70-volt speakers will have a tap setting. We call it our Tom. What are we calling these tap settings, or the tap dial?
Sorry.
Easy tap.
Yeah, easy tap. So
there you go.
You can
I
see
like
down there at the bottom that picture is indicative of a lot of how 70-volt speakers look, where depending on the tap is where you put the speaker wire, the inputs on those. And ours is, we use Phoenix connectors, so it's real simple to install. You install into the Phoenix connector and then snap it into the speaker. And then we have this tap that you see up at the top. In the blue striped area is where you see the different wattage levels, the tap levels. So in this particular case, it's 20, 10, 5, 2.5, and 1.3. So that's where you would select the output on the speaker. It makes it a lot easier to install, and there's only one way to install. You can't mess up the wiring like you could possibly do on the speaker input down below.
Correct. And then we'll get into this, but the Beale Street speakers, the Sonic Vortex speakers, have that dial on them, whether it's on the front of the speaker or the back. So it makes it super simple to obviously adjust tap settings as you go. That way you're not rewiring each speaker if the volume's too low or even too high to adjust those tap settings.
And
so,
Frank, real quick, when you're,
yep.
I know that, 70-volt speaker options come in different forms, shapes, sizes, pendants, architectural. When our dealer is quoting out a system, and let's say they're looking at an architectural setup, are there other things, I guess, speaker-wise, they should be looking for when quoting out the speaker in general? Let's say like a 6.5 or 8-inch driver, or does the space matter when actually quoting out the speakers itself?
Yeah, I think it does, Mark. It really depends, again, on the environment and the expectation of the client. So just like you would in an 8-ohm system, if the client says, hey, I'd really like to have more bass, you go from a 4-inch to a 6.5 or a 6.5 to an 8. Same type of thing in the 70-volt system. The larger the speaker, the better bass response you'll get.
And I think that's just good to know that, when you're putting a 70-volt system, like, you don't need to just have, if you will, inexpensive, cheap 70-volt speakers. The quality does matter in each application, whether it be 8-ohm or 70-volt. Because an 8-ohm system, if it's like a theater setup, well, there's good, better, best. So like that, it's just as important, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, in a 70-volt system as it would be an 8-ohm system.
Absolutely. And it's also, from a cosmetic standpoint, what do you want the finished look to be? Is it something where it's a exposed ceiling? So you need more of a pendant look. And Frank will show you here in a little bit that, even our Sonic Vortex in ceiling can be turned into a pendant. So depending on what the application is, we've got the right speaker for you.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, and we've got different options as well. So we'll cover the Sonic Vortex speaker, which is obviously a step-up speaker. And what's great about that speaker for 70-volt applications is it can produce some bass. Typically your 70-volt systems, your 70-volt speakers don't output a lot of bass. Well, the Sonic Vortex, because they are enclosed speakers, they can produce some bass in 70-volt systems. We do have non-Sonic Vortex speakers called Beale Basics. We'll get into that. But again, the Sonic Vortex does a great job of doing that. All right, so let's determine the amplifier power, right? So So picking an amplifier for our 70-volt system, how do we do that? Well, we've got to add the wattage of all the speaker tap settings and then allow for 20% headroom. So we got to make sure that there's more than enough wattage on that amplifier to handle all those speakers that we just ran and installed, right? So for an example, I'll give you, so let's say a project requires 10 speakers tapped at 20 watts. So just doing simple math, well, it's 200 watts plus 20%. Our equation then becomes 200 times 1.20, right? Because we need 20% of headroom. And that's going to equal 240 watts. So in this application, if we're using 10 speakers tapped at 20 watts, we need an amplifier that has at least 240 watts. So same slide just comes up again, just to remind everyone of these questions to ask their customers. Again, we'll get this posted on the website and sent over to Mark and the team at 21st. So now that we've covered 70 volt, why and how to install it, any questions before we switch gears here into the actual product and solutions that we can offer for 70 volt applications?
No, it does look like it, man. Keep going.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so let's talk about Sonic Vortex, right? We talked about Sonic Vortex a little bit. So, Vanco has a brand called Beale Street Audio. So why Beale Street Audio? Beale Street Audio is a company that we acquired years ago. And our intent was creating a speaker. However, we saw this speaker and this company is very different. It's got a patented technology called Sonic Vortex. It's a totally different speaker, totally different technology. And what that entails is a built-in cabinet for each and every Sonic Vortex speaker. Our motto with Sonic Vortex is sound reinvented. It features a twisted ported transmission. And I mentioned this previously, it creates more bass than any other standard speaker can provide. Okay. And how we do this, we allow for a smaller cabinet. Okay. But these long ports really is basically produces this bass. Okay. What we do with these long ports is we compress them within the speaker cabinet, and there's actually 6 of these ports. Okay. In addition to that, because of the Sonic Vortex technology, we can provide more sound dispersion than your standard speaker. Your standard speaker basically outputs roughly about 120, 140 degrees of sound dispersion. Our Sonic Vortex speakers provide 160 degrees of sound dispersion. What does that mean to you? We can use less Sonic Vortex speakers in a space compared to your standard infinite baffle speaker. Is there a question out there?
Okay.
All righty.
Oh, we're good.
So
Go ahead.
Okay. So here's a problem with your architectural speaker, right?
Yeah.
Is there a question out there? Got an M. Miller? Is there a question out there?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm going to mute him.
Okay. No worries. Okay. So here's a problem.
Well, then you know what? What do you got to get? You have a price adjustment to Josh?
I'll wait for you to mute him.
Please mute, please.
Do you know what the special pricing is?
There you go.
Okay.
Go ahead. All right, where was I at? So here's a problem with architectural speakers, right? This is your normal infinite baffle speaker, right? And I'll be honest with you guys, all this is a car audio speaker stuffed right into the wall or ceiling, okay? The issue with this speaker is that there is no back box. So you're getting sound where it's intended to go, okay, which is out of the front of it. But because there's nothing behind it, well, there's no back box, so now you're getting sound resonance to neighboring rooms, to up above, and we're losing that focus of audio instead of focusing it into the space where it's intended to go. Okay. Now, keep in mind also there's different airspace in walls and ceilings. So essentially, the wall cavity, the ceiling cavity becomes our back box. Now, I'll illustrate this on the next slide, the issue with that. But basically what you're getting is inconsistent sound in addition to sound resonance to other rooms. So let me give you an example. So we've got a pair of ceiling speakers, right? They're identical. Okay. The one on the left-hand side, as you can see, has a much larger ceiling cavity compared to the right-hand side. So again, these are now our back boxes for these speakers, right? Not only are we getting sound radiation in those red waves to whatever room's up above, but our speakers can actually sound very different because the left-hand side, again, it's much different than the right-hand side. Left-hand side, larger area, we can have more ductwork, we can have more insulation compared to the right-hand side. And again, the result is different sounding speakers, even though they're identical. So again, with Sonic Vortex, it's really having sound where it's intended to go. Bookshelf speaker in the wall or ceiling is our forte with these speakers. Again, sound consistency no matter where it's installed because it has a back box. These can be installed anywhere. They can be installed in the ceiling cavity, in the wall cavity. We can have multiple units and they'll all sound exactly the same. I can have it sitting right on top of my desk and it's going to sound exactly the same as if it were right in the wall or the ceiling. So again, greater sound dispersion, fewer speakers required for a listening area, and again, no sound radiation, the takeaways of Sonic Vortex.
Sorry, Frank, some other things to
Yep.
note on this too. So when you have an infinite baffle speaker, 70% of your energy that's coming from that woofer is actually going backwards. So that's one of the reasons why you get that noise dispersion going into other rooms where you may not want it. So what we do is we capture all that energy and we shove it through the ports, and it comes out into the room where you want. So you get a 7 dB gain in bass response. So a lot of times when we talked about a little earlier, people think, well, I can't get bass out of a 70 volt system. Well, you can out of ours because of the design of our speaker technology. And then I know there's a lot of our competitors out there that have a back box, and I did the finger air quotes there because all that is really intended to do, or all that it really does, is help limit the sound from going to a different space. It actually degrades the sound of the speaker because that speaker is not designed to be in an enclosed space. It's designed to be an infinite baffle woofer. So ours is designed to be in an enclosed space and actually helps the speaker sound better. So Sonic Vortex is really the best way to reduce unintended sound going backwards, and then really help your speaker sound better in the environment that it's in.
For those that aren't familiar with Sonic Vortex and these versions of speakers, I know there is an 8-ohm version as well, or do we have a speaker with an 8-ohm tap on it as well as 70 volt? Or are they're two different models? Then is there any difference in the two other than the tap settings in the 70 volt transformer?
Yeah, so there's we make the 70 volt version, and then we make the 8-ohm version. Now the 70 volt version has a tap where it can be 8-ohm as well, so it'll do everything. But we have a good, better, best line in the 8-ohm version, and it's the things that change on that are the tweeter and the woofer composition.
So there is a difference in the actual speakers itself. Okay, the guts of it. Okay,
correct.
very good. Yep.
Sounds good. So let's talk about those commercial Beale Street Sonic Vortex speakers, right? So obviously great for commercial applications. In terms of the materials, the woofer is made out of fluted injected polypropylene, aluminum tweeter, and as Tom mentioned, you've got that easy tap there for different tap settings. And there is an 8-ohm setting. Again, we can turn the speaker into an 8-ohm speaker. Obviously, you don't want, if you're doing an 8-ohm setup, don't buy a 70 volt speaker, buy a dedicated 8-ohm Sonic Vortex speaker. Okay. Now this is available in a couple different sizes. You got your 4-inch, 6.5, and 8-inch ceiling speaker. If you're working with a ceiling cavity where there is not a lot of depth, or if you want to put this into the wall, we do make a pancake 4-inch speaker with less than 3 inches of depth. And then again, it has that easy tap adjustment.
One thing to note as well, our 70 volt speakers are sold as each. And then the majority of our 8-ohm speakers, all of our ceiling speakers are sold as a pair.
Got it. All right. Again, just going over the specific SKUs that we covered here. So again, the 8-inch, the 6.5, the 4-inch in ceiling, and the pancake. Again, showing you the easy tap adjustment and the actual images of the speakers. And again, as you can see, the pancake speaker is pretty thin. It doesn't have much depth, but again, because it's enclosed and because it still has a sonic vortex ports, we're still creating some bass out of that speaker. Okay, and again, we're keeping the sound resonance from going backwards, and again, focusing that sound forward. More of a cheat sheet with all our other speakers here. Now, keep in mind, this includes some sonic vortex speakers. We'll talk about Beale Basics on the next couple of slides here, but we do have 70-volt audio speakers without the sonic vortex technology. I'll let you guys know what the difference there is. Pendant speakers right in the middle. Some of my favorites. Again, we'll have a slide for you in a few. And then our amplifier lineups for both 8 ohm and 70 volt. We'll cover those in a bit. So let's talk about Beale Basics. Again, sonic vortex is more of a step-up speaker. Just keep that in mind. We do have a more cost-efficient line called Beale Basics. Now, this is a value-price speaker line, great for background music and or paging. It is an infinite baffle design, so keep in mind, obviously, it's not going to keep the sound resonance from traveling, as we talked about with sonic vortex. But again, more for a cost-efficient solution. We do have this in 70 volt and 8 ohm as well. 2 different sizes for both 6.5 and 8 inch, 3/4 inch titanium tweeters. The woofers are made out of Kevlar, and we do have pre-construction brackets and tile bridges available for these speakers. And then we do have a pendant speaker as well. Now, keep in mind, we do have a pendant enclosure for the sonic vortex speaker, which we'll cover in a few. I'll show you guys that slide. But if you're working with Beale Basics, we do have a dedicated pendant speaker. As you can see on the right-hand side, it's hung from the ceiling, but it's very versatile because you can hang it from the ceiling, you can mount it on the wall, or we have an optional landscape accessory kit, which I actually have. I've got 2 of those out my patio, and they stake right into the ground, so I've got it staked right into the mulch. And I've got a fairly good amount of area in my backyard, and I've only got 2 of these, and they cover that area. So great speakers for the performance. Again, that pendant speaker, which is a 6.5, and then we've got a smaller version available, which we'll cover on a slide in a few. So the 70 volt in-ceiling speakers, the materials, the woofers, again, is made out of Kevlar, tweeters made out of titanium. And again, 2 different SKUs here. We've got the 6.5 and the 8 inch. And again, the indoor-outdoor 70 volt speaker, 2 different sizes, 2 different colors. As I mentioned, a lot of flexibility in terms of installing it from the ceiling, from the wall, into the ground. It comes in black and white, and again, 6.5 and 4 inch. These are obviously outdoor rated, and they can run at 8 ohm as well, in addition to 70 volt. We even have that easy tap. Once you take off the top cover there, the easy tap is right there and can be easily adjusted. Okay. So great speakers. Again, I personally love them. I think Tom's going to switch over to these pretty soon on his patio. Now, if you're looking for an on-wall speaker, we do offer, this is fairly new, it's a 5 1/4 inch on-wall. It can be used indoor, outdoor speaker, obviously 70 volt. In terms of the materials, it's a 5 1/4 inch engineered woven fiber woofer and a 3/4 inch titanium tweeter. Again, it is outdoor rated IP44, and again, can be run at 70 volt or 8 ohm. Part number on this is W5VB-BSC. We're working on more outdoor solutions. Obviously, we covered that pendant, that on-wall speaker, but we also have an outdoor landscape subwoofer. It's a 10-inch down-firing landscape subwoofer. So right now, it's available in both colors. We have discontinued the green color. We're going to continue on with the black color, but again, a great option to add some bass outdoors.
What is the standard wire run when you're involving subwoofers? So, I mean, would you want to put that on its own channel? Can you? I'm assuming you would probably want to do that compared to that and your landscape or patio speakers when involving a subwoofer?
Yeah, you'd want to use either a separate amplifier, as Frank will show you in a couple slides with our BAV amplifiers. They can run 70 volt for, say, the landscape speakers here, and then another channel can be run at 8 ohm to power the subwoofer.
Very good. Okay.
Yep. All right. So, yeah, in terms of adding a subwoofer, we also have in-ceiling subwoofer options in addition to the outdoor. So these come in two different sizes: 8-inch, 6.5. It's Kevlar woofer. It runs at 4 ohm. And to run this, you do need a separate subwoofer amplifier. We actually have two different options. What's being shown here is the 220 watt subwoofer amplifier. And as I mentioned it, we talked about Sonic Vortex. This is a nice little add-on. As Tom mentioned, if you're working in an application where there's no ceiling tiles, industrial type ceiling where it's open, you need to hang those Sonic Vortex speakers. We offer pendant and surface mount enclosures. All these are empty cans. Comes in two different sizes, two different colors, white and black, obviously covering most Sonic Vortex speakers. The great thing about this is that you can really plug in any Sonic Vortex speaker, any 6.5 inch, any 8-inch, most of the 4s, 70 volt, 8 ohm even. And then you can even do the in-ceiling subwoofer here if you wanted to as well. Okay, so great thing there. Comes with all the hardware to hang it from a ceiling. The wall mount bracket is optional. And again, two different sizes, two different colors for those.
Also makes the Sonic Vortex speakers, when you put them inside here, it makes them outdoor rated, which is nice.
Absolutely.
How do you installation into these enclosures? They
just the dog ears.
Dog ears. Okay.
That's it. Yeah. So all it's you basically screw in the dog ears and it secures it right to the enclosure itself.
Very
Now,
good.
one thing to note, obviously, if you're getting the black one, comes with the black grill. The white one does not, because obviously you're getting a white grill along with the speaker, and the white grill is paintable, as well as the enclosure itself is paintable as well. Next up, tile bridges. So again, if you're using 70 volt in-ceiling speakers for both Sonic Vortex and Beale Basics, we offer tile bridges. Keep that in mind. What's shown here are the tile bridges for the Sonic Vortex speakers, both 8-inch and 6.5. And then volume controls, we're actually expecting these pretty soon. We've had 8 ohm volume controls for the longest time. 70 volt has been requested. We're finally getting these in. These should be in very soon. We'll have two options, rotary and slide options. So again, shipping soon. We're really excited about these. All right, let's talk about some of the amplifiers. So we do offer both residential and commercial amplifiers. Little cheat sheet of all our amplifiers. I don't have a slide on this. However, the lower right-hand corner, the PA230 series of wall plates are very unique in the fact that they're single gang wall plates with a 60 watt amplifier built onto the backside. I actually have one of these running in my garage, hooked up to those pendant speakers out my patio. Two connectivity options. You've got one for Bluetooth and then one for Wi-Fi streaming. The Wi-Fi streaming one's pretty cool. It's got an app for iOS and Android, and then you can run multiple units. And then we even have a Wi-Fi streamer. So if you want to incorporate that with your other amplifiers inside the house, you can actually zone them up with using the app, and you can play your Tidal, your Spotify, your SiriusXM, and stream to these devices wirelessly. So great options. Let's talk about the multi-channel 70 volt amplifier. It's our BAV series. We've got a 4-channel, which is our BAV 4250. And then our 2-channel, our BAV 2500, really popular, both 1,000 watt amplifiers. The great thing about these multi-channel amplifiers are basically matrix units for audio. but each output is fully independent in terms of settings. So we can run 70 volt or 8 ohm off of any output on these amplifiers. Great flexibility for any application. Give you an example. Let's say you're doing a residential application on this 4-channel. Well, we can do the first 3 channels at 8 ohm for inside the house for audio distribution. And then the last channel we can run at 70 volt for the patio. Okay. As Tom mentioned, if you want to run a subwoofer in a 70 volt application, great. We can install this into a bar restaurant type application. First 3 channels we can run at 70 volt. We can run 8 ohm for the last channel just for the subwoofer if you wanted to. So great flexibility there. In terms of control, it's got a great user interface via IP. Punch in the IP address, and you've got a full-blown user interface with a customizable panel along with DSP. In fact, it's on the next slide here, just showing you guys screenshots of what that looks like. So not only is there an audio matrix unit, we can adjust the different levels. We can really tailor this for any application.
And
Yeah,
can
it's got
you
a,
pick and
high
choose?
pass.
Right.
Go-
Can you also, for each channel, I guess, pick and choose whether it's 70 volt or 8 ohm, or is there certain channels designated for
No,
such?
you pick and choose. On the right-hand side, some of the smaller screenshots, the bottom right-hand corner is the output configuration.
Oh, yeah, right.
You can get 70 volt, and then it's, we're saying 8 ohm, but it's 4 ohm stable. Obviously, it's a powerful amplifier. And then top left, you can have high pass filter. You can also have a low pass filter for the subwoofer option, so you can set your crossover point if you are running a sub and where you want that to be. Really, is a great piece. The kind of a semi room correction as well. So if you're in a bar or restaurant, and you have a lot of hard surfaces, you can really tone down the highs, so they're going to have a much reflectivity and harshness coming out of that. So great amplifier, real powerful. And again, it's got the matrix built into it. Only 1 U, so if you've got a larger project, you need several of these guys. You can stack them right on top of each other. They're not going to overheat. And it's just super simple to set up, and it's got a nice end user experience as well. If it's not being tied into a control system, it's something where you can give the end user access to this and be able to control it.
Nice. Hey, I got 2 questions real quick that came in. First one is, are there built-in presets for, I guess, the Beale speakers, if they're designing a system that's, I guess, tailored to those speakers? And the second one is, question is there an app to control this as well?
So we don't have the presets in there yet. That's something we're looking at, but we don't have a preset. And one of the other reasons we do that is because the room configuration really matters. And unlike a home environment, the commercial space, these are going in all types of different environments. So with the DSP and the EQ settings in there, you can really dial it in based on that. And then what was the second question, Mark?
App to control.
So we don't have an app. It's a web browser, but if a lot of our end users will bookmark that as basically where it looks like an app. And if you got questions on how to do that, we can walk you through that for end user experience.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the questions, guys. Keep in mind the BAV amplifier. There is a driver for it for Control 4. So if you're looking for app control, you can certainly integrate with Control 4, who should have an app and control it that way. So there's a workaround for that. All right, so we'll keep it moving here. So let's change gears here into Pulse Audio, and Pulse Audio is our brand for just different types of audio solutions. Quite honestly, we grabbed a lot of the ideas from you guys, our dealers, into what kind of audio solutions are out there or could be used out there, and we came up with just different types of solutions for this line. When we first started off this line, we only had a handful of SKUs. I think we're up to about 30 plus SKUs now with this line, so it's our fastest growing line. One thing that we do love about this line are PAV amplifiers. These are great single channel amplifiers. They can do a lot in terms of the inputs. You do have your analog 3.5 millimeter, your RCA. Digital, it uses optical, and then there is actually a mic input as well. So for any PA systems, this thing is great for that application. Also does mic ducking as well. So in case you're doing a PA system, but also has some music, it'll also duck down the music so that way you can speak over it. Okay. Controllable via IR and RS-232. You got two different flavors here. You've got a 40 watt on the left-hand side, and if you need more juice, there's a 100 watt on the right-hand side.
Yeah, this is a great little piece for like a conference room, boardroom, classroom. And it's also a nice little source for the BAV amplifiers if you need microphone to be able to make announcements and things through the system. You can use this as an input.
Yep. Next up is an interesting little solution. This is our stereo to mono audio converter, part number PASM21. Why would you need this? Let's say you're using one of our BAV amplifiers. Obviously, you got 4 of those inputs. Well, keep in mind those inputs are mono, right? So if we fed it a stereo input, we're essentially using 2 channels just for left and right to combine those and to take that into a zone. Well, this little device, all you have to do is plug this in between that amplifier and your audio source, and we can turn that stereo signal into mono, therefore using just one of the inputs on that BAV amplifier. So it's pretty simple.
It also allows you, if you do connect a stereo input to a BAV amplifier, your output won't be as high. So this actually increases your output significantly because that amplifier is looking for a mono input.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then next up, as Tom mentioned, obviously, if you're doing any PA, you need to add a microphone to any application, to any amplifier. This is just our microphone preamplifier. Plug this between, obviously, your mic and your amplifier, and now we've got microphone ability for that amplifier if it doesn't already have it installed or have it featured. Part number is PA-mic pre on this. Last but not least, in Pulse Audio, we have audio mixing extenders. These are great solutions in case you need to join in an audio source and a microphone, but also extend that signal over Cat6 or Cat5e. Range is pretty ridiculous, 984 feet or 300 meters. Taking that microphone and that audio source into an amplifier, and then also mixes between the XLR and analog input. So again, great for any PA systems, obviously. So if you got some music running, we can turn down the music, speak over it using the microphone connectivity. The other thing here is that we can add additional microphone locations by adding more transmitters. So we do sell additional transmitters as well in a wall plate version additionally. So a great way, again, of extending your analog audio and including XLR for your microphones as well. So that is it for Pulse Audio. To wrap up here, again, takeaways from this presentation. Don't be afraid of 70-volt audio. That's what we're here for. Obviously, you can reach out to us. We can help out with system design, help you out with bill of materials, finding the right solutions. Beale Street Sonic Vortex technology, it's a great solution for any 70-volt application because as Mark mentioned, there are different levels of speakers that you can use even for 70-volt. You can have poor sounding quality speakers. You can have great sounding 70-volt speakers. Obviously, the Sonic Vortex does a great job of producing bass, sound consistency, and cutting down that resonance to other rooms, again, with that technology. Beale and Pulse Audio 70-volt amplifiers provide multiple options. Again, we've got the BAV amplifiers for multi-channel. We've got the PAV amplifiers within our Pulse Audio line if you're just looking for a single channel option for a simple room and simple application. And last but not least, the Vanco team's always here to support you guys. Again, reach out to us. Feel free. Again, we can help you out from start to finish on any 70-volt application. We're also looking for ideas, as I mentioned as well, with Pulse Audio. So if you guys are coming across an issue out in the field related to 70-volt commercial audio, let us know. We've got a great product development team headed up by Brandon White up in upstate New York, and he's a former integrator. He's always looking for ideas. So again, let us know how we can help out.
Well, thank you so much, Frank and Tom. Really appreciate it. You get into this, once you get into this, and I'll have
Yeah.
something
So
to
we
say.
do offer project registration. Keep that in mind. You can register with on our website or with 21st Century. So if you're working on a bid, you're working to secure a job. Again, depending upon the dollar amount, we do provide a discount based upon that dollar amount. And again, you can register that project. You can work with our team with system design again, and we'll help you out throughout the way, even with tech support if you're on the job site. If you need help with the tap settings on the job site, again, our tech support team, myself, Tom, can help you out with that as well. And then last but not least, we do have an LMS. It's our learning management system. It's our online training center. So if you want to learn more about Sonic Vortex, we actually have an interactive module that takes you no more than about 25 minutes to complete. Goes through, again, the Sonic Vortex technology, goes through the speakers. If you want to learn more about our HDMI over IP system called Evo IP, again, we've got a great interactive module that'll take you through the user interface. If you're new to HDMI or green HDMI, if you have any staff that's new to HDMI, bring them to this site. It'll teach them all about HDMI. We've got a great 101 and 102 module on HDMI as well, just going over the basics. So with that, Mark, appreciate your time. Everyone on this call, appreciate your time. Any questions at all?
No, I think the biggest takeaway, this is really another reason why I wanted to have this training, is the fact that the Vanco 3-5 years ago versus today has completely evolved with the Beale straight line, pulse audio. That's really why I wanted to make this more commercial AV centric, because there really isn't an application that you guys can't be completely a part of. Whether it's the speakers or just from soup to nuts, whether it be video distribution and now audio. It's definitely a line that if you guys are unfamiliar with, as you can see, Vanco offers the full solution of products. So we're going to have this recorded for you guys to review again, and we're going to have a lot of the stuff on our website for you to review if you need to. But no, Frank, Tom, really appreciate your time today. This has been amazing.
Likewise, everyone. Thank you again. If you guys need to reach out to us, let us know. Website, it's frank@vanco1.com is email address. So feel free to reach out. And again, if you guys need a copy of this presentation, we'll send this over to Mark.
Thanks again, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
See you, everyone.